Hi, I'm Paul Wells from Agile J. In a previous video we saw how diagram styles are a powerful mechanism for controlling what is displayed and how it's displayed on a class diagram and according to project specific rules. However, in that video we only touched on how to make up your own diagram style. In this video we'll have a look in more depth at how you go about defining the rules which make your own diagram style. Now, if you take a look at the standard diagram styles which ship with the product, you'll see that, here's one, you'll see that firstly there are a few rules which control basic options like the canvas color and whether type names are displayed qualified or unqualified. But after that you'll find that there's a list of display statements, and you can have as many display statements as you like, and if you look more closely you can see that they follow a pattern of saying displays something using something else. So you can think of them as bindings between what to display and how to display it. There's a bit more to it than that, but that's the basic idea. So what happens is that as the class diagram is displayed, each Java element is tested against the rules in order until one of the rules says, yes, I know how this should be displayed. It's basically the chain of command pattern. What you'll also notice is that some of the display rules are to do with the display of types, fields and methods, and the rest of the displays are to do with the display of lines. Types, fields and methods are excluded or included from the rule by something called a selector. If you want to see the selector, all you have to do is click on it as you would do following any reference in the Java editor. So if I click on that one, it takes me there to all types. It's not a very interesting one because it just qualifies any type. But if we scroll down here, we can see there are ones with a bit more to them. So this is abstract types, and there it only permits types which are modified as abstract. There are three different separate selectors for types, fields and methods, and there are also the equivalent, so they do the selecting, they control what, but in the how side of things, how things are displayed, we have something called display styles, and the display styles, there's only two of those. One is for handling types, so if I have a look at this one here, this is a type display style, and if you look down here we have something called a field or method display style, because the information is the same in both cases, and that's a field or method display style. Let's have a quick look at the line display rules. Each rule refers to dependency, inheritance or field lines. UML makes a distinction between aggregation, composition and association, but Java doesn't make that distinction, and so we don't do either. You don't have to worry about multiplicity, that gets figured out automatically from the Java model. So one of these rules can be paraphrased as, say, inheritance lines from one type selector to another type selector, so that would be from the supertype to the subtype, should be displayed in a particular color, and that's useful where you're interested in highlighting all of the inheritance lines for one particular collection of classes. There's another aspect to the definition of diagram styles. They themselves have an inheritance mechanism of their own. This is very useful because, as is always the case with inheritance, it means that you don't have to have a definition of all these rules from scratch every time you make a new diagram style. You can just pick an existing diagram style which is more or less what you require, and then add some additional rules of your own. Okay, remember the chain of command pattern usage I just mentioned? Well, the way it works is it first of all looks for a matching rule in your diagram style definition. If there's a match, then all well and good, but if it doesn't find a match, then it checks the inherited diagram style, and then it checks through the rules down inside there, and that applies for display of Java elements and to the display of lines. One other issue is, how do you actually hide lines or Java elements? Well, it's worth pointing out that if you don't supply a displays rule, then it will fall off the end of the chain of command anyway, and by default it won't get displayed. But what if the diagram style that you are inheriting from, what if that diagram style does have a display rule? Well, then in that case you use something called a hides rule. And a hides rule is syntactically similar to a displays rule, but with the difference that obviously you don't need to supply a displays style. You just say what it is that you want to hide. So we've spent quite a long time now looking at the configuration language itself, and once you get your head around how it declares what to display using selectors and how to display it using display styles, then hopefully you'll want to have a go at defining your own diagram styles geared up for the needs of your own project. However, what you'll almost certainly find at some point is that after you've created a new diagram style, it won't work in the way you expect. That's actually quite normal. We found that when we were creating the standard diagram styles that ship with the product, they often wouldn't work as we expected, normally because of a selector not working as intended, or because it would fall off the chain of command and then hit a different displays rule either too early or too late or not at all, and it just doesn't display the Java element as you'd expected, or the line between two Java elements. So we built a debugger, and I'll show you next how you can use the debugger. So to get to the debugger, go back to the diagram, right click on empty space and select configuration debug, and the dialog which opens is a tree of every Java element that you have on the diagram, and not just the top level but the members, and you can drill down inside here, and if you select one of them and then select this tab here, configuration debug, what it produces is a diagnostic of how it arrived at the decision to display that element in the way that it did. So you get these parts here which are just narrative, and that tells you what it's thinking on the inside. So here it's saying that it's been asked to match a display style for this method called normalize. That's the element that we're looking at, which is the vector normalize method, and you can see that it went through and it didn't find a match in the hide constructors diagram style, so then it got passed via the inheritance through to the default diagram style, and got passed through and it matched this method selector here, which is called all methods. If you drill down inside, you can see how it matched it. It actually matched it by name, and because it matched, then the outcome was it decided to use it, and so it's matched it. So the binding has then been resolved to this display style.